Cool. All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha, Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in the title, keep your eyes on this. Okay. Now, there's been a lot of talk recently about which this is something that has actually been happening for a while now, but it has picked up very rapidly in recent weeks, okay, which is dealing with this whole de-dollarization process that is going on. And if you're looking at it from the perspective of how bad it is for America, it's kind of like a virus that's spreading because it's not limited to just one country that may be considered maybe an enemy or a foe of America, but you have other countries that may not necessarily be enemies of America, but they see value in shifting away from the dollar because when the dollar being considered the world reserve currency starts to be used as a political weapon, that pushes these countries away, okay, and they want to seek some alternative. And now with nations like China and Russia um, showing that that is a very real possibility, a lot of nations are not opposed to that at all, okay, and they're seeing a lot of value in that, in transitioning towards different countries, different currencies that are actually backed by some physical value, some gold or something to that extent, okay, and as the scriptures talk about in Isaiah, what's that, Isaiah 47, it goes into how the skirt of this place is being lifted, meaning that now the world is starting to see the the hidden things, okay, the not so desirable things of dealing with America, okay, or the West, and they're all starting to want to shift away. And now, given this opportunity, they're doing so in at the same time fulfilling prophecy, because all of these moves are going to lead to prophecy being fulfilled anyway. It's going to lead to certain alliances being formed, okay, it's going to lead to certain dependencies being broken, which is going to lead to chaos, all right, ultimately really here in Babylon, but it's also going to lead to the opportunity to introduce a new system. So I have a few articles here, briefly going to go into them, but not too deeply. I've linked them all in the description box, all four articles, and so you can check them out yourself over there. But now it's at the point where you can no longer try to just cover your ears and close your eyes and say, "I hear no evil, I see no evil," because now it's starting to become more granular, and it's affecting you. It's, let me just say, it's starting to hit closer to home. So this is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 6. It says, "Shall not all these take up a parable against him?" The him being Esau Edom. Now, Esau Edom, you could just say Babylon personified as Esau Edom. Okay, so put it like that. So as it says, against them, and a taunting proverb against them, and say, because you could say America is like their cash cow, right? That's like their driver, their vehicle that they use, the whore that sits upon the many waters. So in this case, these nations are taking up that parable against America. Okay, now show you how much how demonic these people are and how corrupt they are. Here it is. They're going to other parts of the world. All right. I think Uganda might have been one of them, but I could be mistaken on that in terms of the names. But I think Ghana was also one of them, where this demon Kamala Harris is over there saying that they should basically accept and allow and push that Moism, okay, the sodomite agenda. And they're like, yeah, well, we're not interested in doing that. And then they're saying, well, if you don't want to do that, then we'll just cut our aid that we are supplying to you. And this is a part of the wickedness, that cup that she's trying to make them drink, because um, what's interesting is you, during your quote unquote inauguration, your president to be swears in on a Bible. No? Is that not what happens? But is that not the same book that condemns the same thing that you are now going around the world trying to push? As if pushing it in your own land, which is not even your own land, but let's just go with that for example, right? As if pushing those agendas here on the soils of America wasn't bad enough, you decide to go around and spread such ideologies. Shows you how much, how big of a hypocrite they are, right? But yet they're so quick to jump out and say, hey, this person is not right, this person is doing wrong. We have problems that we are causing in our own land, but let's go to your land and let's go and solve your problems, quote unquote. We think that they're problems. Even if you and your people think that everything is fine, no, no, no. If we think it's a problem, we need to come in there and step in there and fix it for you. I mean, high level demons. No, I would say so. This is the book of Habakkuk 2 and 6. It says, shall not all these take up a parable against them, and a taunting proverb against them, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. How long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And as we've gone into time and time again, when you go into that word clay, it doesn't mean that they actually got real clay and started slapping it upon themselves, making like a clay suit, but the clay goes into debt. All right, that's the Hebrew word in there for it, means debt. And these nations have seen that. And a lot of them realize we're not going down with this, please. Okay. So the first article here, it says, this is from zerohedge.com. The last war we can afford to fight. Tucker Carlson sounds alarm over de-dollarization, slams Biden admin for pissing off the world. Now, like I said, these are things that have been happening. However, now we're at a point where these are, in past times, these are things that you would see on some like deep end alternative media or somebody's YouTube channel or something. But now they're putting it straight up on the mainstream media, the MSM, and you got to ask yourself why. Why now are they putting these things out there? Everything they do, because they control it, right? They control what they show, what you see, how you see it. So what do they seek to gain from showing this? Or the same thing they seek to gain from everything they show is to desensitize and to control the narrative. So it says, we've noted several times of late a growing number of countries are threatening the US dollar's status as the global reserve currency. And they've seen a fraction, or not a fraction, a fracture, and they're all jumping at it to take advantage. And this is the most tumultuous times, even when you look through our history. Whenever a so-called world superpower starts to waver, that is the time when you have war, because you have other nations that are either under this the control of this world superpower or rival to it, that say this is the perfect opportunity to jump in and really claim that world dominant spot for myself. So now today it may not be through all out war right away, but there's different avenues, right? There's the economic front, the political front, and then there's the actual war front. Okay. So what we're seeing right now is they're trying to topple the American world dominance or the dollar dominance through the economic front. Okay, economic warfare. So it says here, by conducting global trade without it, and that's one of the worst things you can do to a country, especially in this kind of interconnected world, is to isolate a country. Countries cannot function without being interconnected with each other. They need to trade. They need allies. They need to, just like humans interact with one another. Well, that happens on a geopolitical level as well. When you isolate a country, it's almost like laying a country like siege, and eventually they will need things that they don't have, and if they can't deal with you through trade or some form of transaction, they're screwed. So when these countries start cutting off America, America is gonna find itself in a very, very difficult position. And that's gonna be felt largely in part by the American consumers. Those who, especially those who have no clue what's going on, because it's gonna be so sudden to them. Why the hell all of a sudden their money is worth nothing? Why the hell all of a sudden the economy just like they knew it was bad, but it just tanked, like it just collapsed? Why the hell is all these different chaotic events happening? Because they don't understand the domino effect of these things. It says, the things Saddam and Gaddafi threatened to do before they were liberated from their mortal coils of other stated reasons. So I'm gonna read a little bit here. Now, these are a few articles you had. It says no reason for Malaysia to rely on U.S. dollar. PM warns as yuan influence grows. You see that? So it's not just like the thing about it, like I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, is it's not just that you say, hey, let's move away from the dollar. What makes it even more dangerous for the dollar is that you say, hey, let's move away from the dollar. Here's how. Because when you just pose a problem to people, they can agree with you all day long, but no change comes if there's no example, there's no alternative. How many people work at a place and know that it's crappy, but they're still there because they don't have an alternative? They know that it's bad. They agree with you all day long, but yet they're still there. Now, if you gave them a better opportunity, then they would agree with you and then they would do something about it. So it's the same thing here, right? What China is doing, especially, is saying, look, let's move away from the dollar, but let's move over here. Let's explore these options. Let's do things this way. Let's trade without the dollar. Maybe let's do direct trading. So they're opening up all these other routes that are now enticing these other nations to say, hey, this is a good idea. And it's very doable. And in fact, I think I like it. And I don't want to be left in the Stone Age. It looks like this is the trend. This is the direction things are going in. Let me jump on that train. Okay, let me drive the boat. So it says de-dollar. The next one, it says de-dollarization just got real, and yet I'm sure the average individual walking around does not even know what that term means. De-dollarization. What's that? It says here are 7 signs that the global de-dollarization has just shifted into overdrive. And then also you have the whole Fed Now payment system thing that's coming out, right? And they're moving quick. Okay, almost as though they know that they have what but a short time. They know something is about to go on, and they need to at least have something in place to transition. De-dollarization has begun. Um, it says Fox News host Tucker Carlson has picked up on this big time, noting that the process began after the Biden administration started wielding the dollar as a political weapon by freezing US dollars held by Russians, which this began prior to that, but this is you could just say like what are those real turning points. So it says Carlson cites an article from the Daily Caller in which authors E.J. Anthony and Peter St. Ong or Onge write a second critical feature of a reserve currency is its apolitical nature, with which Biden is now gutting. After both parties in Washington destroyed the dollar's stability with inflation, now the Biden administration has chosen to wield the dollar as a weapon. Together, the message to foreigners, they should get out while they still can. And that's why you have it talks about, yo, if you got dollars, you know what to do. You know, it says in response to Russia's war with the Ukraine, the U.S. Now listen to this: the U.S. froze the dollar reserves of Russia's central bank. To be clear, these were not American assets, but were dollars owned by the Russian central bank and the Russian people. So this wasn't like for example, I have assets in an overseas country. So I'm freezing that. Like you can't touch that, deal with it in any way, shape, or form. No, 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 no. This is you have these dollars, but because they are my currency, I'm freezing that. So you may have, let's give an example, right? You may have had a certain amount of whatever currency you have, and then had to convert that to dollars. So maybe you can, make some transactions, some international transactions that you needed, but you needed to do in dollars. So you work hard, you have all this amount in your currency, you convert it to dollars, you have these reserves, and then I say, well, I'm gonna freeze that now. So there's that. Let's what we're gonna do. What do you think happens, not just to Russia, but to all the neighboring countries that are looking around? Now in their head, they're saying, "Wow, that's kind of like a low ball. Like, I mean, really, you that's what you do." So we also deal with dollars, but then what's stopping you from doing that to us? If you see fit, if something happens and we don't agree, then you can just say, "Yeah, I'm gonna freeze your joint too." So you're using this as a weapon, okay? And so they're like, "Well, maybe we're better off just shifting away from this." Anyway, it says to be Slocky. It says owned by the Russian central bank and the Russian people. The seizure was intended to cause bank runs and collapse Russia's credit system. It didn't work. Instead, it exposed the Biden administration's willingness to violate the trillions of dollars foreigners rightfully own. The danger of this precedent is difficult to overstate. So they pretty much dug themselves into a deeper grave. Okay. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna read on this. Like I said, it's linked in the description box, so you can get it there. The next one is mass automation to sweep across Walmart by 2026. And and I mean, don't fret about the date. I know we're in 2023. We're all trying to get out of here ASAP. So when we see these kinds of dates, we're like, look, man, we ain't even trying to hear that. But the point is not in the date. The point is in the direction that they are pushing it. Okay, so mass automation in the sense that when you automate something, you basically make it automatic. So you may have like manual labor where you go to a store, you have like assistants, stock associates, you have cashiers, right? So when you go to pay for something, that is done manually. There's a cashier, a human being at the register, and then they're saying, they're scanning your items, they're punching the numbers on the screen and yada yada. When they automate that, that means no humans are there. It's done automatically. So like you have like self checkout. You just scan the machine or whatnot, but there's different levels to it, right? Certain stores, I think, was it Amazon, where you walk in and you just pick up whatever items off the shelf and you just walk out and it automatically knows and charges you and so on and so forth. So automation comes with a lot of things, right? And as this article highlights, which I read through it before, the lesson, so I'll just speak on a few points that it highlights, but you can read it for yourself. The main kind of thing that it highlights is unemployment, because when you automate more positions, you create more unemployment because now you don't need human labor. If I am a company, why should I pay 10 employees to be cashiers hourly when I can just pay one time to install these machines inside of my stores, my outlets that will do all this work for me? I own them. See? And it makes things faster and seamless. I can incentivize it, all of these different things. But then again, there's another there's a part in here which I found very interesting. I mean, something that we've also been talking about as well, right? Let's see. Down here. So it says, translation, 1/3 of a billion layoffs at least in the US and Europe. Think of it as the robotization of the service sector. What's troubling is that America's largest employer is full speed ahead in automating its business, along with the second largest employer, Amazon. Now, for those of you who watch like certain anime or certain movies, sci-fi movies and stuff, you always see like they show in the futuristic time, there's a lot of interaction with AI, robots, humanoids, where you go into a store, and there's either like a hovering robot that goes around, you go to a restaurant and there's this hovering robot that comes around like a waiter, and it talks to you, and then it goes to the back, and all of these things. Well, it's kind of like what they're moving towards now. Okay, it says there is no doubt a layoff wave is ahead, but where is the inflection point where mass layoffs translate to an abundance of angry folks, right? Because once you have an extreme amount of job losses, people get angry, right? They start gathering, because how are they going to feed their families? We suspect the government would implement universal basic income, or UBI, to keep the future laid off masses from gathering in the streets. And you saw how well that worked, right? Because, what were some things that we saw during the pandemic? We saw a lockdown, which means a lot of people were not going to work physically. That means there were a lot of people that were, and a lot of them that also got they became unemployed. A lot of them were at home, but a lot of them were receiving um, these checks, right? These stimulus checks, and it was just coming in at the end of every week or at the end of every 2 weeks. A certain amount was coming in, and it kept people happy. They were able to not do anything and just have funds coming in, and then decide whatever they wanted to do with it. And they got comfortable. And a lot of people didn't want to go back to work because they'd rather just sit at home and get a check. So, I mean, that's a good test, right? To indicate how does this affect the morale of the citizens, But let's see. But we know that that's definitely on their list, right? The UBI. That's something that they definitely have on there. So moving on to more other situations, right? It says here, Saudi Arabia. Now this came out April 2nd. This was written April 2nd. But this is what cryptopolitan.com. It looks like it might be I don't want to incorrectly use this term, but maybe like an op-ed or one of those things. But either way, there's still information here that is you can cross check across different articles, right? Because the sentiment here is still the same, which is Saudi Arabia, as it says, cuts ties with the U.S. for economic independence. Now, obviously, this is a title that is meant to grab you and pull you in. When you actually read the article, it goes into more details as to what is meant by this, right? And mainly what's meant by this is that Saudi Arabia is saying we're making economic decisions that are in our best interest, not in the best interest of America. Meaning, if the decisions we have to make are not in the best interest of America, then so be it. We still need to do what we got to do. So they had the decision to cut oil production, okay, and as you read through, there's some pretty interesting numbers in here, right? Says the decision to cut oil production comes as a surprise, particularly as it is lower than expected. It is lower than the expected reduction of 2 million barrels per day that was to be agreed upon during the meeting that included Saudi Arabia and Russia. And when you come down, it says other countries have also announced production cuts, with the United Arab Emirates cutting 144,000 barrels per day. What an interesting number, right? Oh, man. So it says Kuwait reducing an output of, then they go into list theirs in there. Now, this is an interesting part here. These two subsections. Danger, right? These basically spell danger for the U.S. economy, because economic independence from the U.S. and growing ties with China. And right now, what's the U.S.'s relationship with China? Not good. According to the Financial Times report, the decision to adopt an economic strategy independent of the United States is due to declining relations between Riyadh and Washington during the Biden administration. So this guy Biden came in there, he's done a whole lot. And I remember, like it was yesterday, when this guy got voted in, and the masses of the ignorant American people were so happy. Oh, during this guy's campaign, he's going all different places. You got Jake talking about Biden, please come save us. You got Jake singing songs about Joe Biden. If you're not black, if you don't vote for Biden, oh my God, all the voting propaganda. Well, you got what you wanted. He's there. Oh, but now there's a problem. Now inflation is a problem. Oh, but now this is going on. Oh, but now that is going on. Now we're on the brink of World War III. Oh, now the dollar's about to go to hell. Oh shit! Wow, this things ain't going as expected now, are they? Oh, it says last week the Biden administration ruled out new crude purchase in an effort to refill a stockpile that was drained last year, and this was also reported to be an effort by the White House to curb inflation. Do, 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 do. Yep, it says RBC Capital Markets head of commodity strategy, Halima Croft, stated that Saudi Arabia was going to adopt an economic strategy without dependence on the US. What does that mean? They got options. What's one of their options? China. And China's doing a whole lot. Okay, and they see the Moabites, right? The Chinese, they're not idiots. They're not idiots. They plan and they think ahead. Okay, when you read about just even just like Chinese history or just how they've operated, what kind of writings that they have, what kind of thought process they go through. A lot of it is centered around discipline, but it's also centered about around knowing your enemy and knowing when to do what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You know, so it's interesting how they're almost like, let me just pull the right strings here. But ultimately, we know that the higher you go up the ladder, the more controlled it is, right? It's not just happening out of nowhere. It's controlled ultimately by the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh Shai. Um, Saudi Arabia has recently been granted the status of a dialogue partner in the Shanghai Cooperation or Organization, or SCO, a China-led Asian security and economic bloc that includes Russia, India, Pakistan, and other major economic players. The kingdom could eventually be granted full membership. This move is part of Saudi Arabia's effort to diversify its global partnerships. This month alone, Beijing mediated a landmark agreement between arch foes Iran and Saudi Arabia that could help significantly ease Middle East tensions. Now, the U.S. is not, let's just say, best friends with Iran. Okay. Saudi Arabia also announced a $3.6 billion deal to buy 10% of China's Rongsheng Petrochemical, which would set its supply to 480,000 barrels per day of crude oil to the company. The decision by Saudi Arabia to adopt an economic strategy independent of the United States could have serious implications for the U.S. and its relationship with the Middle East. But the thing about having options is that you don't really care. you know, it says, as the U.S. rivalry with China and Russia intensifies in an increasingly polarized world, Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern nations are choosing to diversify their global partnerships. While states like Saudi Arabia may be getting closer to China, Beijing is far from becoming a U.S. rival in the region, according to Saudi analyst and writer Ali Shahabi. And then the last article basically was mentioned, in here, right? Which is, as you can see, top Saudi and Iranian envoys meet in China for a deal that could remake the region. And I'm not really going to read this. You can pretty much get the gist of it from here, or you can read the article yourself. But as you can see, China is being the middleman, trying to broker peace between the Saudis, and whichever. I think these are the Persians, and these are the Saudis, but trying to broker that peace between them. Okay, which once again, they're using certain means to really get leverage on their side, and this does not spell good for America at all. Now, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 50, verse 23. It says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth, cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations?" Now, ultimately, America is going to be destroyed. Okay, but even prior to that, the sentiment that's echoed here is how. right? At one point, this place was looked at as, like a superpower. This place can never go down. The scriptures say, right, which you can apply it here, that their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places from generation to generation. And now suddenly you're seeing how quick things are deteriorating. And now the average individual is saying like, yo, something is seriously going wrong here. Like, what's up? What's going on? But the worst is still yet to come. You haven't seen anything yet. The worst is still yet to come. And that's why, through the spirit, I titled the video, keep your eyes on this, because it may sound like it's far, but trust and believe, it is going to affect you. Okay, it's going to affect you in a very big way. Once this dollar loses whatever sense of value that people think it has, it's going straight down. And it's going down quick. It's going to be like being at the top of a roller coaster. And then you know how some roller coasters, they go to the top and then they stop for a while. And then all of a sudden, boom, they just drop down with top speed. That's what it's going to be like when this thing starts going down. Right now it's at the top, and in a matter of time, it's going to go down with top speed. Okay? So, I mean, yeah, that's that. That is that. But yeah, I'm going to end it here. Like I said, I'm going to say it once again. The articles are linked in the description box, so you can get access to them over there if you are interested. But Lord willing, this is edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.